Good afternoon, my fellow classmates. Of course, to you, Sir Professor Domingo Sagnip Jr. I'm here to report to you the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Plan, NDRRMP 2011-2028. What is the NDRRMP 2011-2028? The National Disaster Risk Management Plan is a roadmap on how DRM should contribute to sustainable development. It fulfills the requirement of Republic Act number 10121 of 2010, which defines the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management as the systematic process of using administrative directives, organizations, and operational skills and capacities to implement strategies, policies, and improve coping capacities in order to lessen the impacts of hazards and the possibility of disaster. Republic Act number 101/21, an act strengthening the Philippine disaster risk reduction and management system, providing for the national disaster risk reduction and management framework and institutionalizing the national disaster risk reduction management plan, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. Disaster risk management is the application of disaster risk reduction policies, strategies to prevent new disaster risk, reduce existing disaster risk and management, residual risk, contributing to strengthening of resilience and reduction of disaster losses. The NDRRMP is the document formulated and implemented by the National DRM Council through the Office of Civil Defense (OCD). The sets out goals, the specific objectives for reducing disaster risk together with related actions to accomplish these objectives. It outlines the activities aimed at strengthening the capacity of the national government and the local government units together with partner stakeholders to build disaster resilience communities and institutionalize arrangement and measure for reducing disaster risk, including projected climate risk and enhancing disaster preparedness and response capabilities at all levels. By law, the Office of Civil Defense formulates and implements the NDRRMP and ensures the physical framework, social, economic, environmental plans of communities, cities, municipalities, and provinces are consistent with such plan. What is the basis of NDRRMP? In accordance with law, the NDRRMP shall be in conformity with the National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Framework, NDRRMF, which provides for a comprehensive all-hazards, multi-sectoral, interagency, and community-based approach to disaster risk reduction and management. The vision of the framework is safer, adaptive, and disaster-resilient Filipino communities towards sustainable development. The framework shows the mitigating the potential impacts of existing disaster and climate risk, preventing hazards and small emergencies from becoming disasters, and being prepared for disaster will substantially reduces loss of life and damage to social, economic, environmental assets. It also highlights the need for effective and coordinated humanitarian assistance and disaster response to save lives and protect more vulnerable groups during and immediately after disaster. National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Framework. The framework shows mitigating the potential impacts of existing disaster and climate risk, preventing hazards and small emergencies from becoming disasters, and being prepared for disasters. The framework shows the risk factors and the mainstream DR and CCA in planning and implementation. The framework shows the DRM framework aims to raise awareness and understanding among governments and people on the country DRM's goal, a national framework for DRRM which shows the overall direction, set of priorities, and which delineates the fundamental elements components of disaster risk reduction. What is the country's DRRM vision? The overall vision is safer, adaptive, and disaster-resilient Filipino communities towards sustainable development. It conveys a paradigm shift from a reactive to a proactive DRRM, wherein men and women have increased their awareness, understanding on DRRM with the end in view of increasing people resilience and decreasing their vulnerabilities. This contained in the national framework serves as the principal guide to disaster risk reduction management. The objectives of DRRMP. The DRRMP outlines the activities aimed strengthening the capacity of the national government and the local government units (LGU) together with the partner stakeholders to build the disaster resilience communities and institutionalized arrangement. The measure with reducing disaster losses. How was the DRRMP formulated? The DRRMP is the product of consultative, multi-stakeholder consultative process that started after the approval of the framework on June 16, 2011. Representatives from the national government and line agencies, leagues of local governments, units, civil societies organizations represented by the DRR Network Philippines and regional DRRM councils, represented by regional directors of OCD, comprised the DRRMP task force, which in turn was created by the Technical Management Group of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. What does the NDRRMP contain? The NDRRMP goals are to achieve until 2028 through 14 objectives, 24 outcomes, 56 outputs, 93 activities. The plan details lead agencies, implementing partners and timelines under each of the four distinct yet mutually reinforcing priority areas. The long-term goals targeted by the priority areas leads to the attaining the country's overall DRRM vision. The DRRMP outlines the activities aimed strengthening the capacity of the national government and the local government LGUs, together with the partner stakeholders to build the disaster resilient communities. It's structured as follows: risk profile and state of DRRM in the Philippines, development policies, challenges, and opportunities, the National DRRM Plan priority areas and long-term goals, priority projects, cross-cutting concerns, general considerations and planning assumptions, timelines, implementing strategies and mechanisms, agency, leads and implementing partners, resource mobilization, monitoring, evaluation and learning, annexes, such as HFA, PDP, NCCAACP, development of the NDRRMP, detailed NDRRMP. What are the four priority areas of NDRRMP? What are the four priority areas of NDRRMP? Disaster prevention and mitigation. Number 2, disaster preparedness. Number 3, disaster response and rehabilitation recovery. The National DRRM Plan. 4 distinct mutually reinforcing thematic areas. Why is DRRM important? Why is DRRM Plan important? It help us to identify and map local capacities to cope with these hazards. Ultimately, the DRR approach help us conduct effective disaster response while reducing risk that similar disaster will occur. It also ensures that our emergency response does not harm replacing reinstating critical vulnerabilities. Disaster preparedness. Establish and strengthen capacities of communities to anticipate, cope, and recover from the negative impacts of emergency occurrences and disasters. Disaster response. Provide life and preservation and meet the basic subsistence needs of affected population based on acceptable standards during and immediately after a disaster. Disaster prevention and mitigation. Avoid hazards and mitigate their potential impacts by reducing vulnerabilities and exposure and enhancing capacities of communities. Disaster rehabilitation and recovery. Restore and improve facilities, livelihood and living conditions, and organizational capacities of affected communities, and reduce disaster risk in accordance with the Building Back Better principle. Why is the DRM important? Because it also ensures to the emergency response of to do not harm the replacing reinstating critical vulnerabilities. Sorry for that. So next slide. What guides the NDRRMP? The NDRRMP is thus guided by good governance principle within the context of poverty, alleviation, and environmental protection. It is about the partnership towards effective delivery of services to the citizenry, working together through complementation of resources, thus engaging the participation of civil society organizations, CSOs, the private sector, and volunteers in the government's DRM programs is a part and parcel of the plan. Efforts were made to align the DRRMP and make it consistent with the Philippine Development Plan, the National Climate Change Action Plan, and the National Security Policy, such the DRM activities are integrated with various or relevant line agencies. The DRRMP is a roadmap on how DRM shall contribute to gender-responsive, rights-based, sustainable development. The DRM explanation. The DRM outlined the activity aimed at strengthening the capacity of national government together with to build the disaster resilience communities and institutionalized arrangement. This is the guides to the DRRMP to show the roadmap on how DRM shall contribute to sustainable development by working the progress together with the local governments such as LGUs. Next slide. What are the timelines for the plan? The DRRMP is scheduled to commence in 2011, immediately after its approval from the members of the National DRRM Council members. In general, the set of activities are divided into 3 timelines, with the first two having 2 years interval, while the last one with the 5 years to with short term 2011-2013, medium term 2004 to 2016, and long term 2017-2028. At medium term, NDRRMP shall have contributed the meeting MDG targets and HFA commitments. The activities identified identified under the short and medium terms coincide with the complement the targets made under the Philippine Development Plan 2011-2016. For the priority areas 3 and 4, the operational timelines are indicated in the plan. The use of operational timelines is deemed useful at the local level during actual operation in response, rehabilitation, and recovery. If the activity lasts beyond 6 years for rehabilitation and recovery, the duration is considered long-term. In response, the maximum timeline is beyond 3 months. What are the roles and responsibilities? The National Disaster Risk Management outlines the roles of the national government, the NDRRMC OCD, the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, the local disaster risk reduction management offices, LDRRMOs, and the provincial, city, municipal disaster risk management and management councils. The national government will integrate DRM into the National Development Plan, as well as the sectoral DRM plans of the national line and government agencies along 4 priority areas. Lead agencies and implementing partners shall work together to identify specific programs, projects, and pin down specific budgets to affect better DRM investments in synergy between government programs. An important link in the national-local chain are the regional disaster risk reduction and management councils, RDRRMCs, and the local DRRMCs. The RDRRMC shall take the overall lead, ensuring the DRM-sensitive regional development plans contribute to and are aligned with the NDRRMP. Local DRM plan, which OCD is tasked to evaluate, shall ensure the DRM measures are incorporated into Comprehensive Development Plan (CDP) and the Comprehensive Land Use Plan (CLUP). The LDRRMP shall development by the local DRM offices (LDRMOs) at the provincial, city, municipal levels and the barangay development councils. The roles of lead in agency implementing partners are as follows. Lead agency, lead in initiating the implementation of an activity, coordinate and collaborate with the different implementing partners to ensure that the activities are operationalized, monitor the progress of the activities, evaluate implementation, development, and program efficiency, consolidate efforts from the implementing partners and submit to the respective vice chairperson of the DRM priority area implementing partners. Perform the activities to achieve the specific outcomes. Work with the other implementing partners within the context of coordination, collaboration, and partnership. Submit report to the agency leads. What are the priority projects? During the consultations, pilot projects and demonstration sites were identified. As priority of flagship projects, which are doable, fundable, high impact, interconnected, interdependent, and sustainable, the purpose is to either replicate good DRM practices or implement projects in areas which need them most. All priority projects are to be implemented within the immediate or short-term period or between 2011 and 2013. The priority or flagship projects of the DRRM are development of the following plans. Joint Work Plan for DRRM and CCA. Local DRRM plans, National Disaster Response Plan, to include a system for search, rescue and retrieval, SRR, scenario-based preparedness and response plans. Risk financing, development of IEC and advocacy materials on RA 10121 DRRM and CCA. development of guidelines on communication and information protocol before, during, and after disasters, creation of DRRM teams, criteria standards for local flood, early warning systems, evacuation infrastructure, redesign and modifications, manual operations of disaster operation centers, development of tools on DRRMCCA mainstream in the national and local level planning, DANA and post-DANA, psychosocial concerns. The purpose of this, the priority projects of this plan is to prepare and respond to national calamities such as typhoons, earthquakes, and it also monitors human included emergencies such as armed conflicts and maritime accidents. How are the various DRRM programs and projects going to be funded? At the national and local levels, the following sources can be tapped to fund the General Appropriations Act GAA through the existing budgets of the national line and government agencies. The National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Fund, NDRRMF, Local Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Fund, LDRRMF, Priority Development Assistance Fund, PDAF, Donor Funds, and Adaptation and Risk Financing Disaster Management Assistance Fund, DMAF. Aside from the fund resources, the DRRMP will also tap into the non-monetary resources available which can help attain the targets identified in this plan, namely community-based good practices for replication and scaling up, indigenous practices on DRRM, public-private partnerships, DRR and CCA networks to key stakeholders. The purpose of NDRRMC, the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, is the agency tasked to prepare for the response to national calamities. How is the plan monitored and evaluated? Results-based programming should be used in ensuring that implementation on time and learning from experiences is built into the DRRM system. The OCD should develop a standard monitoring and evaluation template together with the technical management group. The stepwise monitoring and evaluation process includes the LGU regional and national levels. Annual reporting is done by the DRRMC through the OCD to the Office of the President, Senate and the House of the Representatives within the quarter of the succeeding year. The HFA Monitor online tool will also be used by the National DRRMC as a working format to undertake national multi-stakeholder consultation process as progress is reviewed and challenges are systematically identified. That's all. Thank you.